That is big news in a night of breaking news. Just in, Georgia's Secretary of State's office has filed its response to that Texas election lawsuit.
Texas and 17 other Republican-led states are asking the Supreme Court to invalidate President-elect Joe Biden's win here and in 3 other battleground states as well. Filed by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, it claims states exploited the COVID-19 pandemic to justify ignoring federal and state election laws. Specifically in Georgia, the lawsuit is looking at the signature verification process and rejected absentee ballot rate, along with a consent decree relating to curing ballots.
And yesterday, President Trump filed a motion to join as plaintiff, and attorneys general in 17 other states have asked to either join or support the Texas petition to the high court. In the state's response, Georgia election officials point out that they conducted 3 counts of our nearly 5 million presidential ballots, including a 100% hand audit. In today's briefing, Georgia's elections manager offered his opinion of the Texas-led challenge.
We agree with Attorney General Carr that it is constitutionally wrong, wrong on the law, and wrong on the facts.
And President Trump met with Republican attorneys general this afternoon at the White House. We expect to learn more tonight when he delivers remarks at a congressional ball held at the White House. As it is worth noting that 3 Georgia Republican members of Congress have signed on to the Texas brief against Georgia. They are U.S. Representatives Buddy Carter, Drew Ferguson, and Austin Scott of Georgia.